2 years. 2 goddamn years I spent in the sand, dodging bullets and IEDs, thinking about home, thinking about my wife Madison and my boy Logan. I survived everything Afghanistan could throw at me, but nothing prepared me for what I found when I came back early. My name is Zachary Wolf Bradford, and at 42, I've learned that sometimes the real war isn't fought overseas. Sometimes it's fought in your own backyard, against people you trusted with your life. The C-130 touched down at Naval Air Station Oceana 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Our mission in Kandahar had wrapped up faster than expected, and I couldn't wait to surprise my family. I'd been planning this moment for months, imagining Madison's face, hearing Logan's laugh, feeling like I was home again. But even before I stepped off that transport, something felt wrong. My phone had been silent for weeks. No texts, no calls, no replies to the messages I'd been sending. Madison used to send me pictures of Logan almost daily. Used to tell me about her shifts at the VA hospital, about Logan's soccer games, about missing me. The silence should have been my first warning. The cab ride through Virginia Beach felt like driving through a foreign country. Everything looked different somehow. New developments, new traffic patterns, and this strange quiet that settled in my gut like a bad MRE. I caught myself scanning rooftops and checking corners, old habits from deployment. But today I wasn't looking for snipers. I was looking for answers. When we pulled up to my house in the military family housing development, my SEAL training kicked in immediately. Something was off. Madison's garden, the one she'd spent 3 years perfecting, was gone, replaced with generic landscaping that looked like it came from a catalog. Logan's basketball hoop wasn't in the driveway. No chalk drawings on the sidewalk, no forgotten toys in the yard. Mrs. Anderson, our neighbor who'd known me since we moved in, saw me getting out of the cab. For a split second, her face lit up with recognition. Then it crumpled into something that looked like pity. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then quickly disappeared inside her house, slamming the door like she couldn't bear to watch what was about to happen. I used my key, it still worked, and stepped into what used to be my home. The hallway walls were bare, no family photos, no pictures of Logan's school events, no wedding pictures. The air smelled different too. Madison's vanilla candles were gone, replaced by nothing. Just empty, sterile air. "Madison, Logan," I called out, keeping my voice steady despite the knot growing in my chest. Footsteps thundered down the stairs, and before I could react, Logan launched himself into my arms. "Dad!" His voice cracked with emotion, his thin arms wrapping around my neck like he was afraid I might disappear. For a moment, holding my boy, everything felt right again. But even in that reunion, I could feel his desperation. He was clinging to me like a drowning man clings to driftwood. Logan had grown taller, his face more defined, but there was something in his eyes, a weariness that no 8-year-old should carry. "Where's Mom?" I asked gently, though every muscle in my body was tensing for the answer. Logan's small frame stiffened. His lower lip started trembling. "She's at church," he whispered, then forced out the words that would change everything. "Getting married to Uncle Owen. Grandma and Grandpa are there too. They said you abandoned us, but I never believed them, Dad. I knew you'd come back." Uncle Owen, Owen Sullivan, my old buddy from basic training, the guy who'd been my best man, the physical therapist who specialized in helping wounded veterans. The man I'd trusted to look after my family while I was gone. My combat training kept my face neutral, but inside, a storm started brewing that made Afghanistan look like a gentle breeze. I sat Logan down that night and got the whole story. Piece by piece, my son told me how Owen had started coming around more after I deployed, how he'd taken Logan to soccer practice, shown up at school events, even moved some of his things into our house, how Madison had told everyone I wasn't coming back, that I'd chosen the military over my family. "They told me to call you a coward, Dad," Logan said, tears streaming down his face. "They said if I said it enough, I'd believe it, but I never did. You're not a coward, you're a hero." The room went quiet except for the sound of Logan's breathing and the distant hum of traffic outside. I pulled my son close, feeling the weight of betrayal settle over me like body armor, heavy, protective, and absolutely necessary for what was coming next. "What else did they tell you, buddy?" Logan wiped his nose on his sleeve. "Uncle Owen said you didn't want to come back, that you loved being a soldier more than being a dad. Mom said..." He paused, struggling with words too heavy for an 8-year-old. Mom said I should forget about you and accept Owen as my new father. That's when I made my decision. This wasn't just betrayal. This was warfare, and I'd never lost a war yet. I called Commander Lucas Webb, my CO, and explained the situation. Military takes care of its own, and within hours I had a full intelligence package on what my wife and my best friend had been up to. Bank records, social media posts, witness statements from other military spouses who'd seen them together. The timeline was brutal and methodical. Owen had moved in on Madison 4 months after my deployment. He'd systematically replaced me in every aspect of my family's life. School events, doctor visits, even Sunday dinners with my parents. And my parents? They'd helped cover it up, deleted my calls, kept me off video chats, told everyone it would be easier if I just stayed gone permanently. The evidence painted a picture that made my blood run cold. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment affair. This was calculated, planned, and executed with the expectation that I wouldn't survive my deployment to come back and interfere with their new life. Commander Webb's intelligence package included financial records that told the real story. Owen had been using my name on credit applications, claiming to be my business partner to secure loans for wedding expenses. Madison had opened joint accounts with him, using my combat pay as collateral. They'd even filed preliminary paperwork to have me declared legally absent so Madison could remarry without my consent. "Jesus Christ, Wolf," Commander Webb said when he handed me the files. "This isn't just adultery, this is fraud, identity theft. If you want to pursue criminal charges—" "Not yet, sir. I want to handle this my way first." He nodded, understanding passing between us like it always did between warriors who'd seen real combat. "What do you need from me?" "Time, resources, and when this goes public, I need the Navy to remember who served with honor and who didn't." "Consider it done." The intelligence packet included surveillance photos that hit harder than any IED blast. There was Owen at Logan's parent-teacher conference, sitting in the chair that should have been mine. Madison laughing with him at the restaurant where I'd proposed to her 5 years earlier. Owen teaching Logan to ride a bike in our driveway, while Madison watched from the porch, looking like the perfect little family. But the photo that broke something inside me showed Owen helping Logan with homework at our kitchen table, my son looking up at him with admiration that should have been reserved for his real father. They'd stolen more than my wife. They'd stolen my place in my boy's life. Sophia Martinez, my old Navy intelligence contact, delivered the final piece of the puzzle 2 days later. Security camera footage from the base housing complex showing Owen's truck in my driveway every night for the past 6 months. Time-stamped evidence of him staying overnight, of him loading his belongings into my house, of Madison kissing him goodbye on the same porch where she used to kiss me. "There's more," Sophia said, her voice grim. "The wedding invitation was sent to your deployment address on purpose. Madison wanted proof she'd attempted to notify you, but she knew the mail forwarding wouldn't reach you in time. Classic legal manipulation. I studied the invitation, expensive cardstock, gold lettering, requesting the honor of my presence at the marriage of Madison Elizabeth Bradford to Owen Michael Sullivan. My own last name crossed out and replaced. When's the ceremony? Tomorrow, 2 o'clock at St. Andrew's Cathedral, 200 guests. I looked at Logan, who was doing homework at the same kitchen table where Owen had played substitute father. My son deserved better than lies and manipulation. He deserved truth, even if it came with pain. "Pack a bag, buddy. We're going to church tomorrow." Saturday morning, I opened my dress uniform bag for the first time since returning stateside. The navy blue fabric still held creases sharp enough to cut glass. Each ribbon represented a mission, a sacrifice, a moment when I'd chosen duty over personal comfort. The silver star from that operation in Kandahar, where I'd saved 3 wounded Marines. The bronze star from Syria. The Navy cross that came with a handshake from an admiral and a letter of commendation that Madison had once framed and hung in our living room. Now those ribbons would serve a different purpose. They would remind everyone present who the real hero was in this story. Logan watched me dress with the same intense focus he'd once reserved for Saturday morning cartoons. "Are we really going to stop the wedding, Dad? We're going to make sure everyone knows the truth. Will it hurt?" I knelt down to his level, looking into eyes that were too wise for his age. "Sometimes doing the right thing hurts, son. But lies hurt worse, and they hurt longer. Your mom and Owen made their choice. Now they get to live with the consequences." Logan nodded solemnly. "I understand, Dad. I'm ready." Looking at my boy, my brave, loyal, honest boy who'd refused to believe their lies about me, I felt a pride that had nothing to do with military service and everything to do with the character we'd built together before I left. The drive to St. Andrew's Cathedral took 15 minutes through the heart of Virginia Beach. Military families lived in this area, worked in this area, shopped and worshipped in this area. By tonight, every Navy spouse in the community would know what Madison Bradford and Owen Sullivan had done. We pulled into the cathedral parking lot at exactly 1:45 p.m. Wedding guests were still arriving, dressed in their finest clothes, probably looking forward to celebrating what they thought was a beautiful second chance at love. Most of them had no idea they were about to witness a reckoning that would be talked about in military circles for years to come. I checked my appearance one final time in the rearview mirror, every button polished, every ribbon positioned perfectly, every detail, regulation, perfect. Logan straightened his tie and looked up at me with absolute trust. "Ready, son?" "Yes, sir, Dad. Let's go show them what honor looks like." St. Andrew's Cathedral was packed. 200 guests filled the pews, all dressed in their finest, all there to celebrate what they believed was Madison's fresh start with a good man. The organ played soft classical music while late arrivals found their seats. Flower arrangements lined the altar, and candles flickered in the afternoon light, streaming through stained glass windows. I could see Madison at the front of the church, radiant in a white dress that probably cost more than a month of my combat pay. Owen stood beside her, in a rented tuxedo, looking like he'd already won the lottery. My parents sat in the front row, my mother dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, my father nodding approvingly at the proceedings. They all thought they were attending a celebration. They had no idea they were about to witness an execution. Logan and I took position at the back of the cathedral. Several guests turned to look at us, their faces showing confusion at seeing a man in full dress uniform with ribbons that commanded respect. A few recognized me, neighbors from the housing development, other military spouses who knew exactly who I was and what my presence here meant. The whispers started before we even moved. "Is that Zachary Bradford? I thought he was deployed. Oh my God, does Madison know he's here?" The ceremony proceeded with painful normalcy. The minister began his opening remarks about love, commitment, and the sacred bond of marriage. Madison smiled serenely, completely unaware that her carefully constructed new life was about to implode in the most public way possible. Owen shifted nervously, and for a moment, I thought he might have sensed something. But he was just adjusting his collar, probably nervous about the vows he was about to make to another man's wife. I waited until the minister reached the part about speaking now or forever holding your peace. That's when Logan and I started our approach down the center aisle. The cathedral doors hadn't made a sound when we entered, but our footsteps on the marble floor echoed like gunshots in the sudden silence. Every head turned as a Navy SEAL, in full dress uniform, and his 8-year-old son marched toward the altar with military precision. Madison's face went white. The bouquet in her hands started shaking so violently that petals began falling to the floor. Owen turned around, and I watched recognition dawn in his eyes like a sunrise over a battlefield, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. My parents looked like they'd seen a ghost. My mother's handkerchief fluttered to the floor. My father gripped the pew so hard his knuckles went white. The organ music stopped mid-note. The silence was so complete, I could hear Madison's ragged breathing from 20 feet away. I stopped about 10 feet from the altar and spoke in the same command voice that had been heard over gunfire in a dozen different countries. "Don't let me interrupt. I just came to congratulate the happy couple." My eyes swept over the congregation, cataloging the shocked faces of family and friends. People who had promised to support my family while I was serving my country. People who were now complicit in this elaborate betrayal. "Madison, you look beautiful. Owen, you clean up nice for a man who steals other people's families." Owen raised his hands in that same placating gesture I remembered from our service days. "Zachary, brother, let me explain." My fist connected with his jaw before he could finish the sentence. 22 years of military conditioning went into that punch. Owen dropped like a sack of grain, blood immediately streaming from his nose and mouth onto the pristine white carpet. Gasps echoed through the cathedral. Someone's elderly aunt screamed. A few guests stood up, unsure whether to help Owen or call security. I stood over the man who'd betrayed our friendship, our brotherhood, our code. Blood was already soaking into the expensive carpet, and Owen was making weak groaning sounds as he tried to orient himself. Brothers don't steal each other's families, Owen. Brothers don't destroy the lives of the men they served with. I turned to Madison, who was pressed against the altar railing, tears streaming down her face, mascara running in black streaks. And wives don't betray the husbands who fight for their country while plotting their replacement. Logan stepped forward, his young voice cutting through the chaos with absolute clarity. Tell them, Dad. Tell them the truth about what they did to us. I faced the congregation, using the same authoritative tone that had briefed generals and addressed troops before combat missions. My wife and my best friend betrayed me while I was deployed in Afghanistan. They used my military benefits to fund this wedding. They told my son to call me a coward and forget I existed. My parents and sister helped them cover it up. The cathedral fell silent except for Owen's labored breathing and the sound of Madison's sobbing. 200 witnesses to a betrayal that had been months in the planning, now exposed in brutal detail. They planned this ceremony for today because they thought I wouldn't survive my deployment to interfere with their perfect new life. They were wrong. I looked down at Owen, who was struggling to sit up, blood still flowing from his nose. How does it feel to have your dream wedding crashed by the man whose life you stole? With that, I took Logan's hand and we turned toward the exit. No one tried to stop us. No one said a word. They all just watched as a Navy SEAL and his son walked away from the wreckage of the most spectacular wedding disaster Virginia Beach had ever witnessed. The fallout began before we even reached the parking lot. I could hear the chaos erupting inside the cathedral as guests rushed to help Owen. Others pulled out their phones to call for medical assistance. And still others began the frantic whispered conversations that would spread this story through the Virginia Beach military community like wildfire. Logan walked beside me with perfect composure, his small hand steady in mine. Dad, is Uncle Owen going to be okay? He'll live, son. Might need some dental work, but he'll live. Good. I didn't want him to die. I just wanted him to stop lying about you. By the time we reached my truck, the first photos were already hitting social media. Someone had live-streamed the entire confrontation on Facebook. The Virginia Beach Military Spouses group was exploding with shares, comments, and reactions. The hashtag #NavySealJustice was trending within an hour. Commander Webb called before we got home. Wolf, half the base is talking about what just happened. You want to tell me your side before this gets to the Admiral? Sir, I defended my family's honor and exposed fraud committed against a deployed serviceman. Everything I did was justified under military law and basic human decency. Good enough for me. The JAG office wants to see you Monday morning, but it's just protocol. You've got the entire command's support on this. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in how quickly life can change when the truth comes out. Madison lost her job at the VA hospital within 48 hours. The administration took a very dim view of employees who betrayed military families, especially when video evidence was spreading across every veteran support group on the East Coast. Owen's physical therapy practice began hemorrhaging clients immediately. Word spread through the veteran community faster than a Bush telegraph. And suddenly, former combat Marines and Navy SEALs were canceling appointments, demanding refunds, and posting scathing reviews online. Hard to build trust with wounded warriors when you're known for stabbing their brothers in the back. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following Friday. Madison's lawyer tried to paint me as an unstable combat veteran with anger management issues, using the wedding incident as evidence. But when you have video footage of a man defending his family's honor against documented fraud and betrayal, unstable becomes heroic pretty quickly. Logan's testimony sealed the case. My 8-year-old son stood in that courtroom and told the judge exactly what Madison and Owen had tried to make him believe about his father, how they'd coached him to call me a coward, how they'd tried to convince him that Owen would be a better father than the man serving his country overseas. They said my real dad didn't want to come home, Logan told the judge, his voice steady and clear. But I knew they were lying. My dad always comes home. He's a Navy SEAL. The judge took exactly 12 minutes to render her decision. Full custody to me, supervised visitation for Madison, and a stern warning that any future attempts to manipulate Logan would result in complete termination of parental rights. Madison tried to speak to me outside the courthouse, mascara streaking down her face, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd been planning her dream wedding a week earlier. "Zachary, please, we need to talk. I can explain. You explained everything when you decided to marry another man while I was deployed. There's nothing left to say." Owen had the wisdom to stay away from the courthouse entirely. Word through the Navy grapevine was that he'd left Virginia Beach the day after. The wedding, probably headed for some other state where the veteran community hadn't heard about his special talent for betraying brothers in arms. My parents tried a different approach. They showed up at my house 3 days after the custody hearing, looking like they'd aged 10 years in the past week. My father, who'd always been the strong, silent type, looked broken. "Son, we need to make this right. You had 2 years to make it right. Instead, you chose to help them erase me from my own family. We thought it would be better for Logan to have stability. Owen seemed like a good man. Owen was my brother. You were my parents. Logan was my son. Madison was my wife. And all of you decided I was disposable because serving my country made me inconvenient." My mother started crying. "We just wanted what was best for everyone." "No, you wanted what was easiest for yourselves. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you chose." They left without another word. I haven't spoken to them since. Logan and I settled into a new routine. No more confusion about loyalty. No more being told his father was a coward who'd abandoned his family. Just clear, honest truth. His dad was a Navy SEAL who served his country and came home to protect what mattered most. The boy thrived once the lies stopped. His grades improved, his confidence grew, and that old sparkle came back to his eyes. We spent evenings working on homework together at the same kitchen table where Owen had played substitute father. But now Logan looked at his real dad with the admiration that had been rightfully mine all along. 3 months after the wedding disaster, I made the decision to retire from active duty. 22 years was enough, and I had a son who needed his father present for the challenges ahead. The Navy offered me a position training new SEAL candidates, but I had bigger plans. Wolf Security was born from a simple idea: use military precision and intelligence techniques to root out fraud, betrayal, and deception in civilian life. Help people who'd been betrayed by those they trusted most. I hired other veterans, men and women, who understood discipline, strategy, and the true cost of betrayal. Sophia Martinez left Navy intelligence to become my partner. Brady Thompson, a former JAG officer who'd seen too many military families destroyed by fraud, joined as our legal counsel. Commander Webb even recommended several retiring SEALs who were looking for purpose after military service. Together, we built something powerful. Wolf Security didn't just investigate cases. We delivered justice to people who thought they could manipulate systems and destroy lives without consequences. Our first big case involved a defense contractor who'd been embezzling funds meant for veteran housing programs. Our second exposed a charity that claimed to support military families, but was actually funneling donations into the founders' personal accounts. Word spread quickly through military and veteran networks. If you needed the truth exposed and justice served, Wolf Security got results. The work was satisfying in ways that military service had never been. Every case we solved, every fraud we exposed, every family we helped rebuild, it all felt like payback for what had been done to Logan and me. We were making sure other families wouldn't suffer the same betrayal we had. Logan adapted to our new life with the resilience that seems to run in military families. He made new friends at school, excelled in his studies, and even started playing football. Watching him tackle running backs twice his size reminded me that Bradford men don't back down from fights, whether they're 8 years old or combat veterans. About a year after starting Wolf Security, I met Chloe Patterson at a veteran support group meeting. She was a former Marine Corps intelligence officer who'd lost her husband in Iraq and was working as a counselor for military families dealing with deployment stress and trauma. We started as friends, talking about the unique challenges of single parenting in the military community. Chloe understood things that civilian women couldn't: the long deployments, the constant moves, the way military families have to be stronger and more flexible than most. She also understood Logan's need for stability and never tried to rush into our family dynamic. Instead, she earned his respect the same way she'd earned mine, through consistent actions, honest communication, and unwavering loyalty. When Logan came to me 18 months later and said, "Dad, I think you should marry Miss Chloe," I realized my son had better relationship instincts than I'd given him credit for. The contrast between my two weddings couldn't have been starker. Where Madison and Owen had wanted a spectacle to impress their social circle, Chloe and I chose a simple ceremony on the beach with Logan as my best man and a small group of close friends and fellow veterans as witnesses. No elaborate reception, no expensive dress, no performance for people we barely knew. Just honest vows between two people who had learned that trust, once broken, becomes something precious when rebuilt properly. The years that followed were filled with the kind of steady growth that comes from building on solid foundations. Wolf Security expanded to offices in 3 states. Logan grew from a traumatized 8-year-old into a confident, grounded teenager who understood the difference between right and wrong because he'd seen both up close. We heard occasional updates about Madison and Owen through the Virginia Beach military community grapevine. Madison had moved to a small town in North Carolina where she worked as a waitress in a diner, her nursing career effectively over. Owen had tried to restart his physical therapy practice in Tennessee, but the veteran network's memory is long and their communication excellent. He had ended up selling cars at a used lot outside Memphis. My parents had retreated into quiet obscurity after their social standing in the military retiree community never recovered from their role in the betrayal. The Hawthorne family name, once respected in Navy circles, became a cautionary tale about the importance of supporting deployed service members rather than enabling those who would replace them. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled the situation, if I think the public humiliation was too harsh, if I should have taken the high road and handled things privately. Here's what I tell them. When someone declares war on your family, when they systematically destroy your life and try to steal your future, you don't negotiate. You don't compromise. You win decisively, completely, and publicly, so that everyone understands the consequences of betrayal. That's not revenge, that's justice. And justice served with honor is something a man can live with. Logan is 17 now, already accepted to the Naval Academy, and planning to follow his old man's path into special operations. He's grown into exactly the kind of young man I'd hoped to raise. Strong, principled, and absolutely clear about the importance of loyalty and integrity. Last week, he came home from school with a story about standing up to a bully who was picking on smaller kids. When I asked him why he'd gotten involved, he said, "Because somebody has to stand up for what's right, Dad. You taught me that." The greatest victory isn't just defeating your enemies. It's raising the next generation to understand that some things are worth fighting for. It's showing your son that a man's word still means something, that loyalty still matters, and that honor isn't just an old-fashioned concept, but a living principle that guides every important decision. That wedding day, when Logan and I walked into St. Andrew's Cathedral, we didn't just crash a wedding. We restored honor to our family name, protected our future, and sent a message that still echoes through the military community. Betray us at your own peril. And that, gentlemen, is how you win a war that was never supposed to be fought on home soil. Hoo-yah!